Hey, this is Brian Barletta. What does capturing the existing fan base of a recently ended program look like in podcasting? Today, I'm thrilled to share my interview with Mandy Moore, Sterling K.Brown, and Chris Sullivan, stars of the NBC drama This Is Us, and co-hosts of the new episode-by-episode Rewatch podcast, That Was Us. Unlike some of the earliest examples from the Rewatch retrospective subgenre, That Was Us is part of a new generation that understands the business of podcasting from the start. Gone are the days of the actors rolling the dice on a podcast concept. Shows like That Was Us can employ proven successful strategies. As you'll hear in the following interview, the hosts have even formed an ethos for how and why they'll interact with brands. Now it's time for the interview, and I'll see you at the other end. Why podcasting? All three of you are accomplished in so many other categories. What about podcasting appeals to you?
I think we are a very tight-knit group. We are a family. We worked on a television show together for 106 episodes, 6 seasons, on a project that was very near and dear to all of us, as well as an audience out there. And so I think all of us were quite sad when it came to an end. And doing a podcast, and specifically a Rewatch podcast, allows us the opportunity to sort of connect with one another, the opportunity to rewatch this show and everything that goes along with it, and truly, most importantly, connect with the people that connected with the show to begin with, and having them included in each episode. We're going to have these dedicated fan segments, and I think that's one of the things that we're most excited about, because the show really resonated on a deep level with so many people for a variety of reasons. So to be able to have those conversations, dig into it a little bit more in a way that I don't think we were able to while the show was on the air, in hindsight and reflecting back now, I think is just like, it's the ultimate opportunity for all of us.
On a base level, I love podcasts. I had started this conversation about this podcast with Rob Hollis at Rabbit Grin Productions, who runs, the Armchair umbrella, the Armchair Expert shows. I'm listening to podcasts from morning to night, from news to comedy to narrative into like sleep meditations. Podcasts are, in my opinion, in a world where the attention span is shrinking, is the opportunity to keep the art of long form conversation alive. And so I love doing podcasts. I love listening to podcasts, and so far I've loved making a podcast.
Chris took a lot of my answer.
Oh, but do it with the British accent.
I could do it with a bit of a British accent. I really enjoy podcasts because of the long form conversation that we have there, but also because so much social media going on, 180 characters, whatever it is. Like, it's an opportunity to delve deep. So I guess I said the same thing, but I did it with a British accent.
Which made it better.
Thank you very much. I will also say I just did a podcast with my wife as well. I think it's just an opportunity to share. I mean, this is saying the same thing, just in a slightly different way. You connect with fans through social media. But whether it's on X or Instagram, etc., your characters are limited or whatnot, to be able to give them a bit of what's behind the scenes, like the secret sauce behind the episode that they watched, like what a director possibly did in that episode, a conversation that happened off camera between castmates, something that happened in the writer's room that contributed to what you wound up seeing on screen. It's really nice to give our audience sort of like those behind the scenes little things that oh man, did you know that that's how Randall came to be in this particular situation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my 5 cents.
I love it. You guys touched a little bit on the personal connection there, but one of the things that really stood out to me is the show ended in 2022, correct? This might just be the fastest finale to Rewatch podcast we've seen to date. What does that say about the audience, the show, the general appeal of everything?
Nobody wanted the show to end, Brian. Nobody. Not a single person. Except for Dan Fogelman, who had the vision and the actual incredible restraint to understand the story he wanted to tell and where he wanted it to end and how he wanted it to end. And he refused to inject a bunch of filler and fluff into the show. And so that's why we are looking forward, Sterling, Mandy, and I, to getting a chance to hang out and to keep the show alive in spirit and in actuality, and to share it with other people. And it gives us an opportunity to hang out and talk about something we love.
With that in mind, Chris, like to kind of harp on that for a second, the Rewatch podcast and the continuation, like you talk about how you listen to all these other types of podcasts. If a show was cut too early, is that an exciting possibility in the future to see podcasts be extended with like a final season as a podcast, like a show be extended in a podcast form?
I like it. When we're done going through all the episodes,
you'll make those filler episodes.
We start doing fan fiction, future fan fiction episodes where we reenact how the fans want the future of the Pearsons to play out. That's a good idea, Brian.
With you guys being podcast fans as well and Rewatch continuing to grow in popularity, what's your personal favorite show and that you would want to see a Rewatch podcast of?
I loved West Wing, and I listened to a few of those episodes of obviously, I feel like they sort of kickstarted the trend in a way. So I feel like I had that box checked.
West Wing is good.
Oh, so good.
West Wing is really good. God, what do I want to do? That's a tough question. I can nerd out like on a sort of like Battlestar Galactica level. I can do that. I could go nostalgia, and like there's no one alive. Well, very few people are still around. Like if somebody was around for All in the Family, may he rest in peace. Producer just passed away. Like that was one of like a show that made me sort of understand what the medium of television could do, by sort of like showing flawed human beings who still were capable of love and affection and grace, like just showing how complicated people were. And you fell in love with this dude, Archie Bunker, even though he probably wouldn't want to kick it with your boy. But I was like, Archie, I see you, dog. Yeah, that might be one.
The first show that grabbed my attention as a young man was The X-Files. And if you got David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson to sit in a room and go back through that show, you wouldn't see me for months.
Would be a good one. I guess to wrap it all up, I mean, are you guys excited about the hands-on potential of advertising and podcasting, like to really be involved with the brands that want to help make your show possible?
I would say so. I think I think none of us are people who want to just sort of like, we're not grabbing at anything. We would want like all of the advertising to feel authentic to who we are as human beings and what the show is about. So it's not like we're going to do a lot of green thumb sort of like things like, oh man, you can go get weed from here. That wouldn't make sense for our show, even in the state of California. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it would make sense for Beth and William in one particular episode. So like, that's about it. But to do something that felt sort of like real to who we are as people, things that we could utilize or things that we actually do utilize, because I wouldn't want to talk about something and put it out there unless I really had sort of like, no, this is something that I can actually stand behind.
Yes.
So,
yeah. I think we're all aligned on that same page. Like, we are consumers. I can't tell you the number of things that I have been influenced to purchase because of listening to the advertising on podcasts. So it's like we know the difference between stuff when people can really stand behind a product and really use it and speak to that sort of authenticity. And I think we very much want to find those things and align ourselves with products and services and whatnot that like we truly do use in our lives. That's going to be an important factor.
Yeah. One of the things that This Is Us did really well was respect its audience. And it took care of its audience, and we want to do the same thing. So if they're taking time out of their day to spend an hour with us, we want to keep them engaged in a way where the products are something they might want, something they might use. And so, yeah, we're excited to figure out what those things are.
That's fantastic. I'm so excited for the show. As a big fan of the TV show, looking forward to the podcast. And thank you guys for joining the podcast family, like being a bigger part of podcasting and helping make it grow.
Thanks for spreading the word, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks again for listening to my interview with the hosts of That Was Us.